Hi, this is my presentation for the assignment for law and pop culture, first assignment. And so I've chosen the media that portrays illegal personnel. I've chosen to do The Simpsons, more specifically the episode The Day Violence Died. The episode aired 17th of March 1996, written by John Joseph Swartzwelder Jr. and directed by Wesley Anker with showrunners Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein. Reasons for why I chose The Simpsons for my presentation. I chose it mainly because it's great for parodying. The Simpsons are iconic for making fun of and reflecting critically society and pop culture, while it itself is pop culture that is ironically making fun of pop culture. So it's kind of like a cycle loop. It surprisingly dives into the gripping matters within American society and touches it with a comedic lens. It does this perfectly with the legal institutions, more specifically lawyers and judges within the episode The Day Violence Died. So the legal personnel that we're looking at today are lawyers and judges, as presented in the episode The Day Violence Died within the show The Simpsons. And there are contrasting portrayals of legal personnel and legal institutions. First up, we have Lionel Hutz, who is seen as a scam artist lawyer with thousands of dollars upfront payment regardless of if he wins the case or not. Not known if he has a valid license to even be a lawyer, is very unsure, has a lot of surprising witnesses that relate nothing to the trial, nothing but hearsay, and no concrete evidence was actually ever given on his parts, literally there to waste everyone's time. He is characterized as being scummy and being not morally good, going towards the stereotype of lawyers not being the heroes and being money hungry people who don't care about right or wrong. We also have the blue haired lawyer, who is stern, is presented very respected, has a nasally voice, and looks like portrayed as a nerd. But he presents himself as being intelligent with his representation. He brings up nothing but facts and evidence, and he's sarcastic and loud. He's characterized as being annoying and the antagonist, but in this episode does nothing really wrong and does follow somewhat loosely good legal etiquette that is established in this fictional universe. Then we have Judge Roy Snyder, who is seen as being impartial somewhat towards the people but not towards the lawyers, as he kept allowing the objections to go ahead unfairly. However, he allowed new evidence to be presented and did favor the win to the homeless person at the end, which given the correct facts. So he awards the homeless person the win when given the correct facts. So he's impartial and fair. He's presented as no nonsense, but is not too strict, seems to act fairly reasonable in the circumstances, characterized as a reasonable observing judge. And these are our three legal personnel. So we have the two lawyers, Lionel Hutz and the blue-haired lawyer, and we also have Judge Roy Snyder. So the actual plot of the episode: Bart meets a homeless man named Chester J. Lampwick, who claims to have created Itchy, one half of the popular show within the universe, Itchy and Scratchy, but was left penniless when the idea was stolen by Roger Myers Sr. With Bart's help, he successfully sues the studio and wins, but at the cost of INS Studios shutting down due to bankruptcy. The law parallels within this episode is mostly contained to just the first and second act. It is dealt with from Bart's point of view. The law characters don't really go through any character developments, as is most common within episodic TV shows such as The Simpsons, where there's no actual there's no actual consequences within the episodes because they're all episodic. It can be argued through biasism with how Lionel Hunt is portrayed as sleazy, the blue-haired lawyer is portrayed as an annoying nerd, and Judge Roy Snyder is portrayed as a no-nonsense but fair judge. All this being from Bart's perspective. It is what he thinks of these characters. This is most noted with the cinematography within the actual court scene. So there might be bias within this episode because all of this is from Bart's perspective. So how he sees the lawyers and the judge is entirely from how Bart, the character of Bart, sees them. And this is shown with the cinematography within the court scene. I've chosen two stills from the episode that mainly capture the style and how the legal personnels are portrayed, and this is done through the second act of the episode, which is the court scene. So we are first introduced to the court with the establishing shot of the courthouse. The Springfield Courthouse is a large and all-encompassing concrete building with a serious classical architecture filled with concrete pillars. It's used to symbolize how serious the law takes itself and how powerful it is within our society. A no-nonsense building that does not mess around. It takes up the entire screen, and it's very classic. It reminds me of the old Roman Greek architecture buildings with the pillars and the two lions at the front, with the American flag up above it, symbolizing that it's from the American perspective, with how powerful it is and how it's just something that's no nonsense, something that just that's just strict, and it's all encompassing and all powerful. The second shot I want us to focus on is the actual inside of the court. It's wooden with the judge position way up high. The position of the judge being as high as it is symbolizes that his opinion is what actually matters. The power is all within him. We first see the blue-haired lawyer in this shot. Notice it being dark and gritty. This is to show that he's the bad guy, when in reality he seems to be just doing his job, and doing his job correctly. Unlike Lionel Hutz, who doesn't even have a license, it is very plain and is stripped of all emotion. The actual inside is very plain and stripped of all emotions, yet again symbolizing how serious the law truly is, but it is contrasted with the actual characters themselves, thus giving a great parody of what a joke the legal system actually is. So we see how it takes itself so seriously with the architecture, how it's all wooden and bland, and it is something that's serious. You know, the law is something that is serious. It takes control of, it sort of dictates our lives. You know, it dictates what's right and wrong. However, the actual characters within the episode, the actual three legal personnels, are complete characters. They're not actually real. They're exaggerated representations of stereotypes that Americans think of when they think of legal personnels. We have the scummy lawyer who's a scam artist. We have the nerd lawyer who takes himself very seriously and is very stern and annoying. And we have the judge who is all encompassing, very fair and reasonable. So these are all exaggerations of legal personnel characters within this very serious setting. And I think that's pretty interesting to show what kind of a joke the legal system actually is and what this episode is trying to tell us with that. So what does this episode actually tell us about law and pop culture? So what's the actual end goal of this episode? So what's the actual point of all of this? What The Simpsons are trying to say is how it is portraying the legal institutions. Lionel Hutz represents the scummy, useless scamming side of the legal industry, which is somewhat prevalent in America, as America is the land of the lawsuits via damages, etc., for profits. It's all about money, capitalism. The blue-haired lawyer is used to show the competent yet somewhat antagonistic side of the legal industry. These two lawyers both portrayed as morally ambiguous or just downright wrong. Judge Roy Snyder portrays the reasonableness and non-biased view of the law, which is in harsh contrast to the two lawyers. And with the plot developing in this episode with good toppling evil and the outcome not being what anyone actually wanted at the end, it overall portrays this legal institution as very powerful, non-budging, rigid, and yet non-amicable with what real justice is. It's just what they think is justice, and what they think, as seen with a large courthouse and overpowering reasonable judge, is final. Our only two defense are two evil lawyers, so pick your poison. Essentially, what it's trying to tell us is that the overall outcome of the end of the episode is that Itchy and Scratchy gets bankrupt. The studio that makes Itchy and Scratchy is bankrupt, and that's not what Bart or Lisa really want. But that's what they were fighting for. That's what they thought justice was. However, justice is what the judge and the court and the legal institutions think is what justice is. It is not an actual portrayal of what society thinks justice is. And our only two defense in that is Lionel Hutz and the blue-haired lawyer, who are both very morally ambiguous or just downright evil characters. So pick your poison within this system. And I think The Simpsons does a good job in how it portrays this. It does it in a funny way. It's a parody. It's a parody on society, and it's done in a very exaggerated way. And it's a parody on American society. In terms of how this is reflective of New Zealand society, there are a few differences, with it being how lawyers aren't really, as New Zealand isn't really seen as the land of the lawsuit. It's not really as capitalistic prevalent as America is seen with Wall Street and such. So it does an overall good job of portraying legal institutions within American society. And so, yeah, that's my assignment.